Welcome to our Don't Blow a Gasket talk. Before we get started, I would like to tell you all who I am. My name is Nicole Peretta. I am the leather stocking RD. I also have 4 children, and I do ways and means in my home PTA unit, along with the registrar for my local soccer club. And I also moonlight occasionally as a soccer coach. All of that being said, delegation really means a lot to me because my life is so packed full of activities and people. I want to make sure that any time that I do give is meaningful. We're going to discuss today why delegation matters. Teamwork is one of the hallmarks of why delegation matters, and teamwork makes everything easier. It allows you to have an inclusive, team, and it allows for new ideas and processes to emerge. You want to make sure that you're utilizing everybody that is with you, and that's the beginning of this. Another reason why delegation matters so much is sustainability. We talk a lot about this at the New York State PTA level, but sustainability is super important to making sure that our organization continues in the future. It's a way to keep your PTA alive after you're done serving. And when you delegate tasks to members on your team, it's a way to get them involved and get them to want to continue serving after you yourself are done. This year, for example, in my home unit, we had a new mom come to us from Florida, and she's a wonderful and welcome addition. And we gave her the reflections program to run because she said she wanted to be involved. Now she's talking about continuing to be involved next year, and different things that she would like to do. And this is kind of the attitude that comes out of showcasing or sharing delegation, or sharing your job responsibilities with others. Delegation also matters because it's fun. I have made so many friends, through sharing tasks and, helping people identify their talents and utilizing them in our PTA work. It also helps to make a network for your children or your child. As you move through your PTA adventures, you'll note that you'll meet people that can help you, with different things for your children, and you won't feel alone in any of your experiences with them. So we talked about why delegation is important, but how do you delegate? So you ultimately want to be informed on your processes and your procedures. So that means you need to read and understand your bylaws and your procedures before you begin to delegate. If your unit does not have procedures, or you do not know what those are, I strongly recommend you create them, or you investigate them and then create them. The link for the information sheet on how to do this will be in the last slide. When you read your bylaws, if there's anything that you do not understand, you can absolutely reach out to your region director and they will be able to guide you. So in talking about delegation, you want to clearly define the task at hand. That includes defining all steps and contacts that need to be made, and you need to be as specific as possible. You don't just want to say, okay, we are going to create a newsletter and go. You really want to say, I want to send out a newsletter on the 30th of every month. I would like it to include, sections for membership and reflections, bylaws, our treasurer, and any miscellaneous items that need to be given out to our members. And then you want to check in with everybody that's going to contribute to that newsletter so that everyone knows where they're supposed to be and how it's supposed to come together. So you want to set deadlines for the work that you are going to ask your people to do. And then you want to set times for check-ins. You want to let people know when you're going to be checking in. Are you going to check in once a month, once a week? Are you going to start checking in once a month and then check in once a week as the deadline gets closer? Tell that to the person that you're delegating to so that they are fully aware of when things are coming due and when they're going to have to report to you. And then also be very specific about what you're looking for at each of the check-ins. What is this going to look like? Where should you be right now? And what changes need to be made to fit what's going on right now? Because we know things don't always go to plan, but if you have planned these check-ins appropriately, you'll be able to roll with any changes coming. So how to delegate in terms of people, you want to assess the best person for the task. So some roles, and this is why at the beginning we talked about going through your bylaws and your procedures, because some roles are predefined according to your bylaws and procedures. If it is not a predefined role and you're able to choose somebody, you want to look at your team's strengths. So you want to say, this person has, a background in graphic design. So they might want to do a newsletter for us and they would probably be fantastic at it. You don't want to just say, well, Susie's my favorite, and so I'm going to delegate everything to her. You really want to go based on what people's strengths are and what their life experiences have led them to be good at. And make sure, please, that you're not taxing only one person. Our job here is to delegate so that we can share the load, also share in the fun, and share in, it's the sustainability of our PTA. It's not just to task Susie until she decides to leave. So we're going to monitor and follow up, but this should not turn into a micromanaging situation. So after you've delegated, you're going to follow up only at those specified check-in times. Please don't worry or talk badly about the person if they're not showing you outside of a specified check-in time that things are getting done. Some people work in chunks of time. Other people work better when they're processing outwardly, but you got to kind of trust that the person that you've delegated to is going to get things done. If you're micromanaging or you're bad-mouthing or you're doing these things, you're going to end up turning people off and they won't want to share in your PTA tasking with you. So just make sure to keep those two things in mind. And then the most important thing, and this is super hard for me, is to let go. You want to show your team and the person that you've delegated to that you trust them and let them fulfill that task. Just let go. And I do personally struggle with this, so I know how hard that can be, but it's also exceptionally rewarding when you see someone that you've delegated something to really take off with that idea and own it and love it and turn it into something completely beautiful. So now that we've talked about all the positives about delegation, what if it goes wrong? What if the task isn't completed? What if the task was completed wrong? What if the person just stops checking in? I know we've all had these experiences where we ask somebody to, I don't know, complete a bulletin board. And then a month later, you walk into the building and the bulletin board's not done. So what we're going to talk about here is that if these things happen, if you've done everything up to this point by creating timelines and procedures and check-in times, and if you've been as specific as possible about what this all looks like, then you will be able to salvage the task, assess another person to be able to fill in, and then debrief with the person that had the original task to figure out what happened. Maybe life got in the way. Maybe they needed some more direction. But if you have a solid foundation for letting this all, or for keeping this kind of moving, then you'll be able to salvage this and move forward without much of a hiccup. So that's why the foundational stuff is super, super, super important. Now we're going to move on to time management, because it's part and parcel with delegation. In order to be able to delegate, you need to be as organized as possible. So I highly suggest that when you begin your job, whatever it is, it doesn't matter how big or how small, you get as organized as possible. You gather all of your materials. You make sure that you know exactly where everything is. You have a filing system that works for you, not the one that your predecessor used. I know that the RD that I took over from, she has a wildly different filing system than I do. Hers works for her and mine works for me. If I tried to use hers or vice versa, things would be missing and wrong and we would not know where anything was. It doesn't mean either is bad, but you just need to do what works for you. In addition to being as organized as possible, I want you to talk to your predecessors. I want you to go over timelines, what made sense for them and what makes sense for you. For example, we do a winter conference every year in my region, and I like to start planning that in September. I like to make sure that we have a chair, that we have a topic that we're going after, that we know what is happening. And I know that my predecessor didn't feel that way. She would much rather start talking about it and planning it in November. But again, that worked for her and this works for me. So when you're having that conversation with your predecessors, you can talk about different things that are happening. Like for me, it's my region. For you, it's your unit or even your task within your unit. And you can talk about different things that make sense for you so that you can begin to plan your year. And that's the next bullet. You're going to look at the entire year at once. Because if you are overloaded, like the rest of us are in September and October, maybe adding another conference isn't the best idea. But the only way that you're going to know those things is to look at your entire year at once and kind of plan the bones of it as you begin. And that way you can figure out when the best time is to add new programming and to talk to people about different things that they would also like to include in your year. So when we're talking about time management, after you have those bones set and done, you're going to want to break your year into smaller, more manageable tasks and prioritize the most important tasks. And this is where delegation really shines. So you're going to talk about things like, I don't know, a monthly newsletter, and you can delegate that to somebody. You can talk about your PARP programs or your reflections programs, and you're going to want to make sure that those get delegated as well. If you're talking on the region level, you're going to want to make sure that you have people to do all of your extras, that you have a winter conference person, and that you have somebody that can help you with your spring conferences, somebody that can help you with your bylaws and things like that. Some of these are voted in positions, but you do want to make sure that they are all filled, and it's all part and parcel of identifying what the needs of your unit and or region are and going and delegating appropriately. So now this is super important to me personally. My husband just recently gave me a space in our house so that I can do my work. I'm actually in it right now, recording this for you all. And if you are able, I am telling you, this was the most helpful thing for me in terms of time management. If you're able to create a space, it helps you to define when you are working and when you are not. And I find it makes me much more productive when I'm in this space, because I know that when I leave this space, I'm able to leave all of my PTAing here, and it'll be here for me when I come back to it. It gets me into the mindset of completing my tasks because I know that that's what I am in here to do. I'm in here to work. This is not my dining room table. I'm not this is not a multitasking space, and I do have a door here so that I can ask my children to just give me 20 minutes to complete a task. And most importantly, at least for me, it allows me to leave my work behind when I need a break. I'm able to completely separate from it, and it helps me to clear my head and get into a better mental space when I come back. So if you are able, I really highly recommend creating a space. So now I'm going to tell you something that I think is a little controversial. Avoid multitasking. I think we grow up and we hear, oh, we multitask, we're great at this, we can do this. But I find that productivity tends to be better if you focus on one task at a time. I also think that burnout occurs faster when you're multitasking. And if you avoid multitasking, you can get into a deeper focus on something. And I'm going to set the scene for you because I think we've all been in a situation like this, especially those of us that have children. You're on the phone and you're talking to someone about who knows what. Maybe you're talking to your school principal about a school carnival, or maybe you're talking to a science teacher about a failed exam. And then you're trying on your computer to go ahead and fix that PTA newsletter because that's got to go out. So you're on the phone, you're doing the newsletter, and then you're also maybe trying to clean out your inbox. And then 2 days later, you go and you try to find a super important email. And what did you do with it? So we really want to make sure that when we are focusing on a task, we give it all of our brain power so that it gets done and it gets done appropriately. And I think you'll find that things get done faster if you do that as well. So time management also involves a ton of communication. And this is where I personally struggle the most. Communication allows you to share your load. Communicate, if you can communicate to your team when you're ahead of or behind schedule, that's super helpful. And you also need to communicate when you need help. But this is where I find that I don't want to be seen, oh, I can't, she can't do it. I think we all need help sometimes. And if you are struggling at all, you need to tell your team, regardless of what you think they will think of you for it, because I guarantee you they're not going to have any negative thoughts about you, and you will get the help that you need. Life gets in the way for all of us, and we want to make sure that PTA is an absolutely enjoyable experience for everybody that joins us, because it truly is very rewarding and fun. But please ask for help. Communicate to your team when you need a little bit of assistance, and really share what you've been doing. The other positive about sharing what you're doing and sharing when you need help is that anybody watching you that wants to step into your shoes will have a much better idea of what your job looks like. If you are asking for help occasionally or saying, gee, my schedule got a little ahead of me, I need a little assistance here. It will help people after you. And again, this relates back to sustainability. This will help people after you figure out how they want to structure their year. And, in PTA, our goal is to always do things a little bit better than the year before so that we can continue growing as an organization. And this is a piece of it. Communication is key in a lot of areas, but it's really key in time management. So these are your references and resources. I highly, highly suggest, if you have not nosed around the New York State PTA website, that you go ahead and do that. If you need help with procedures or you have no idea what those are, the top link is going to be your best friend, along with your region director, who is always there to help you. I know, I am one. I want you to also take a look at officer transitions. Again, the link is there, because officer transitions talks a lot about how to get people up to speed in the position that they're in so that they can begin to delegate and figure out their time management as well. And then, because we have such an amazing leadership development committee, there's a ton of webinars available for you. And I just wanted to make sure to highlight that. That is the last link that you're going to be able to click on. And the presentation is now done. I will be available for Q&A if anybody has any further questions. Thank you.